Good evening, everybody. I'm Alan Iden. This is Decision 1996 for Winchester's town elections, and joining me here once again this year, it's my pleasure to welcome Alan McDonald.
Thank you. Great to be here. My favorite day and night.
And night. Once again, the Alan and Alan Show.
That's right.
And also joining us over at Town Hall, Selectman Jerry Polcari. I don't know if they can hear me. Jerry? And TV19 personality Sandy Rogers.
Hi there, Alan.
How are you?
I'm just fine.
Well, we can barely hear you over here, so we may have to do a little lip reading for the moment.
Well, we'll try and speak up.
Ah, there we go.
Great.
We got you. Now, what have you guys been doing over there? We've been watching you for about the past 10 or 15 minutes, and we think you're very well rehearsed.
We have a very interesting program for you this evening. We are going to do a scorecard analysis of the selectmen's race, and Jerry has prepared some material, and he was sharing it with me, and we'll be on later with it.
Well, you have to know that we have not rehearsed at all over here. So,
as usual, nothing new this year. We'll make it up as we go along,
Yes,
Alan.
exactly.
we can wing it. All right, well, we're going to get back to you guys in just a few minutes. You going to have some interviews for us over there?
That's right. We'll be doing the school committee candidates, and you get the selectmen.
All right.
All right, very
All
good.
right.
Okay, guys, we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, now that we haven't rehearsed, now we got to wing it.
Well,
What's the most exciting thing about this election today?
well, as Sandy says, we have a selectman race and a school committee race. We have this particular year. It's the every third year when we have one seat available on the Board of Selectmen and one seat available on the school committee, and we have two candidates for each seat. 3 years ago, we actually had three individual races, but this year we have two, and it brings some excitement because in 1993, Carol Mullen won the selectmen's race against Ralph Johnson in a relatively close race in which she won 4 precincts and Ralph Johnson won 4 precincts, but she had the overall total. And then we had, in the school committee situation, we had Eli Bortman, who defeated Mark S. Lombardi, who was an incumbent on the school committee at that time, and that was also a race in which Eli won 4 precincts and Mark won 4 precincts. So we had 2 races that were very interesting, big swings in the precincts. In 1993, we come back with the 2 winners this year, 2 different challenges, and I think we're going to see some interesting results. Some swing precincts will tell us how we're doing.
It was really right down to the wire on those, wasn't it?
It was a very interesting time, no question. And in those races, it was interesting because both Carol Mullen and Eli Bortman, the winners, won the same precincts, 3, 4, 7, and 5. And this particular year, the challenges for those 2 sitting public officials will have to do very well to limit the amount that those candidates win 3, 4, 7, and 5 by. In fact, they need to really win those other precincts. I think you'll see precinct 5 and even 6 being a swing precinct, because 6 was a precinct that Janusz Tabis, who's running for school committee, did his best job last year. In 1995, Janusz Tabis ran against Jim Evans and Geraldine Heinold for the school committee, 2 incumbents, and finished 3rd, Janusz did. And he did 3rd in all the precincts except for number 6. He came a very close 2nd in number 6, actually. And that number 6 is the poorest precinct for Eli Bortman in his race in 3 years ago in 93. So the situation there would be, if Janusz is going to show well in any precinct, you would think it would be precinct 6. He'll probably have to do very well in 1, 2, and 8 as well to have a chance, but that will be what we'll watch for.
So you were saying 3, 4, 5, and 7 are ones to watch.
No question. Both Carol Mullen and Eli Bortman were extremely strong in 3, 4, and 7 the last time around. They did fairly well in precinct 5 also. But their strength is really in the middle of the town, as those who know the precincts or watching the precinct map know that 3, 4, and 7 kind of runs across the middle of town from northwest to southeast, kind of, and the other precincts ring that area. But 3, 4, 7 is where both Carol and Eli did very, very well 3 years ago. And as I say, last year, Janusz did well in precinct 6, the best for him, which is up in the northwest corner of town, and did show fairly well, better in the 1 and 8 than in the other precincts. He didn't do very well in 3, 4, and 7, and those are precincts that he'll have to try to hold the lead away from his challenge, to hold the lead away from Eli Boardman. Bob Beatty, this is his first town-wide run. Bob Beatty, with 29 years of town meeting service, 7 different committees, a tremendous amount of activity in terms of financial supervision and management of a number of different areas, from the housing partnership area to the finance committee. Bob Beatty was chairman of finance committee, and all that experience has come into play here. It's over 29 years worth across the town, and we haven't seen Bob Beatty run town-wide before, so we can't tell exactly where his strengths are. Bob lives in Precinct 7 in the Flats on Cabot Street. He should do well there. That's an area of strength for his opponent, though, too.
You know, we'll be watching those results as they come in. We're a little unsure of exactly how they're going to come in. As anybody who has been out voting today, and hopefully all of you out there who are qualified have voted, you may, unless you voted in the primary, you may be experiencing our new paper ballot system for the first time. I know I did. It threw me a little bit, but it has some pluses and minuses. We're going to be bringing you the results as they come in. We're standing by for, as these results are transmitted to Town Hall, we will be getting the results, the unofficial results to you. They have to be unofficial because the results that we'll be bringing you tonight will remind you do not include absentee ballots, and they don't include write-in ballots. We also have our TV19 reporters out in the field, and they will be checking back in with some reports and some interviews with the candidates.
Well, these ballots, Alan, are going to be a lot easier for the town to monitor. There'll be a little more work involved for the voter in terms of filling in, and we go to polls. Those who didn't get a chance to vote today will be filling in the ballots by hand. But the advantage is that we don't have to care for the big machines, the heavy machines, the storage, the upkeep and maintenance. And in terms of validity of the election, if there's a recount, this is a lot more foolproof than the machines are. Machines break down. We've had great success over the years with ours and with the good management that our town clerk's office has done with our machines over the years. But this is going to be a more foolproof method and an easier one in terms of maintenance for the community. So for the little bit of extra work that the voters will have to do, rather than flick a switch, they have to fill in a blank, but it's going to be a lot better for the town over time.
It's just, it's interesting, the perception I had, it was almost that we seem to be going backwards in technology, where
well,
it was a big step forward to go to voting machines away from paper
ballots. One thing we
ballots.
didn't have when we had the paper ballots years ago, we didn't have an automatic counter. The paper ballots went into the ballot box, and then people stayed up all night counting them, or till late anyway. These get automatically counted. When the voter votes, they go into the machine, and it's registered immediately. So you'll have it at a few minutes past 8. You'll have the results at the town hall.
And those are going to be transmitted to the town hall by phone.
Yeah, in years past, the technology wasn't there for the fast count.
You and I were chatting a little before we opened up about some of the pluses and minuses of this, whether people will find them easier. One of the minuses, as we said, was, and which we're not encountering in this election, is the fact that with a voting machine, you couldn't vote for more candidates than were available. You couldn't vote for more than 8 candidates for town meeting member if there were 12 candidates.
Right. It puts a burden on the voter not to go over the limit in a time when there might be 14 candidates on the list and you only can vote for 8. You'll have to make sure you didn't vote for 9. That's true. They'll all be disqualified.
That's an important point to mention, the fact that if you do miscount and vote for 9 candidates, if you're only 8 are available, all your votes will be void. Now, is that all your votes for town meeting, or
just for that block?
Okay.
Just because you couldn't tell what the priority of the vote was. If you voted for 9, you couldn't tell if you're the counter which 8 you really were looking at first. So that would have to be an area. But in terms of the positive, it's easier for write-ins. For those who in the past have had problems determining how to write in a candidate on the machine, it wasn't that obvious to some people as to what to do. This is obvious because you just have to fill in a blank space and check the oval next to it, and away you go. So in those cases, and it will happen when there might only be 7 candidates for 8 spots. We don't have that situation this year, but if there were not enough candidates for the available spots, then there would be write-ins. So we have had write-ins in the past, and this will be easier for those who wish to be elected by write-in when the filings have taken place and there aren't enough people for the spots available.
It'll be interesting to see if we see a number of write-ins tonight. We won't be able to tell who the write-ins are. I don't believe at this point. Again, we will know if there are write-ins,
we
because
would
people
know,
fill in the oval, and then I assume the town clerk will have to wait until the actual physical ballots are delivered back to town hall.
That's right. In terms of the write-ins, those would have to be hand-counted because, of course, somebody would have to read the names and count those. But the machine will tell us how many write-ins, if there are write-ins, and so you would know right away in an uncontested election whether there were enough write-ins to make it a contest. And in most cases, it wouldn't affect, unless there was a serious campaign for write-in, you really would only see it in those cases where 2 or 3 or 5 write-ins might elect somebody to town meeting if it was an available spot.
Yeah, might make that swing vote. Absentee ballots, are they similar to this?
Truthfully, I did
haven't
not
seen
see the absentee ballots. I'm assuming that they are the same, but I did not see them.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Maybe that might be a question our roving
There you go.
reporting staff over at
Sure.
Town Hall
That's right, they'll have that.
might be able to give us. Well, let's take a look down the ballot and talk about who's running for what.
We have
Again,
a ballot right
as you
here.
said, we only have 2 contested races.
Well, it's interesting. We have, of course, leading the ballot, John Sullivan is running for his 20th term as town moderator. John was first elected moderator in 1977, and this is his 20th campaign for moderator. He's run a very nice campaign, I thought.
It's a very quiet and
got a-
dignified
got
campaign.
a good chance to be reelected without those write-ins, right. He's really been a marvelous public servant, as we know, and 9 years selectman prior to his serving as moderator.
It is a testimony to his stability that. When was the last time somebody ran against him?
Well, I don't actually remember now. Whether there was somebody running in 77 or not, I don't know. But
It's been a long time.
And that brings a good point as we go down the ballot. There haven't been as many contests this year, and people sometimes bemoan the fact that we don't have so many contests. But I really see it as a mark of good management in many cases, where people are happy, and we have people on the library board of trustees who are serving their 4th and 3rd terms, and we have people on the planning board in the same circumstance, 4 terms and 3 terms and 2 terms, and so on. The selectmen have 2 with 3 terms, 2 with 2 terms, and of course an incumbent running tonight against a challenger. But we've got the 20th year of our town moderator. We have the 12th year beginning of our town manager. We have in each of the boards and committees that are elected to the town senior service in terms of 3 terms or 2 terms of service. And to me, there's a stability there. While we've had a turnover in town meeting of some 70 to 75% during the 90s, which is very healthy, we also have in town meeting some 3 dozen members who have served at least 20 years or more. So you have some stability in town meeting in terms of leadership, but you have a lot of turnover, which is very healthy. But the mix together, in my opinion, is a good, strong management for the community, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I would vouch for it. But in terms of the moderator of 20th term, we have in our selectman race, as we talked about earlier, Carol Mullen running for her 2nd term, having been elected in '93, and being challenged by Bob Beatty, who's had 30 years of residency in the community, and 29 of those 30 in a row in the town meeting and on 7 different committees. Quite a history of activity in the community. The assessor's race is not a race, it's uncontested, but Mark A. Lombardi, who is a former selectman, twice chairman of the Board of Selectmen, 2 terms of selectman, also had 1 term as assessor, and lost in 1993 to Susan Lippman, and Mark is back now running again in 1996, and this will be his 2nd term as assessor. And we have to say, because Susan Lippman was with the assessors for 3 years and chairman of the Board of Assessors, she's going off the ballot. She's leaving her position because of need to spend more time on business that she and her husband are involved in. And we have to tip our hats to Susan for great service to the community. She's also been a member of Finance Committee in the past. Board of Health, Randy Schwartz is running for his 3rd term on the Board of Health, unopposed. The Planning Board, Steve Parkus is running for his 2nd term. Steve was elected to a 2-year term in 1994. This will be his first full 3-year term. And Harry Sheffalo, who's got to be the news story of the ballot in a sense, but Harry is running for his 3rd term on the Planning Board, but his 50th year serving the community coming up this year. Harry was appointed as a member of the Finance Committee in 1947, served as town meeting member, 3 years in the Finance Committee, then in 1950 selectman, and by our count of what we know, he served on 14 different boards and committees over these 50 years, and many of them more than one term, a phenomenal record, and Harry Shuffle will be reelected tonight to his third three-year term on the planning board. School committee is a race. That's Eli Bortman, who's the incumbent, having won in '93, having defeated Mark S. Lombardi in that race I talked about earlier, in a very close race, and being challenged by Janusz Tabis, who ran last year in 1995. And Janusz is 10 years a citizen of Winchester and born in Krakow, Poland, and educated himself in a lot of ways, but is very active in computer engineering and management, high-tech management type activities, and highly motivated candidate who has shown some good ideas during the course of the race. And Eli Bortman, as well, as we know, has spent a lot of time in helping through his finance committee work prior to school committee, and on the school committee with the financial oversee of our technological program in the schools and some other things, and we'll talk about that with him later on this evening probably. Library trustees, Ellen Browning and Deborah Pavel. Ellen Browning is running for her fourth full term tonight. She came on in 1986, having been elected to serve 1 year to end a term, and this will be her fourth time now. She has served since '86. She'll be serving a fourth three-year term after tonight's election. Deborah Pavel will be being elected to her third three-year term. Deborah Pavel came on in 1990, beating Connie Maycool in an election in 1990 for the library trustees.
There's some stability there.
So there's some stability there, you would have to say. And Barbara Bryant, who's the candidate and will be elected to her first full 5-year term on the Housing Authority. Barbara came on last year, being elected to serve the last year of David Roth's term. David Roth moved out of town a year plus ago, and he had his term expiring tonight. Barbara Bryant was elected to that last year for the 1 year, and now she runs for her first full 5-year term. Barbara's been very active running the Meals on Wheels program in the community, and very active in helping elderly affairs and in a number of needy areas. And we'll see. In the Housing Authority, it's the one committee where we have all first termers, but they are 5-year terms, so they gain a lot of experience as they go. Joe Riegel was the last one to run for a second term on the Housing Authority in 1988, and he did a terrific job, as we remember, on the Housing Authority.
Right.
But that's our ballot. We do have town meeting members. We have some...
Before we get into town meeting, you know, we have one of our TV19 reporters is out in the field. Right. Before we leave our selectmen, and Fred Lyman has a report from Carol Mullen's headquarters. Right. Let's go take a look. Fred.
Thanks, Alan. We're here with Selectwoman Carol Mullins, presently chairman of the Board of Selectmen and running for her first re-election to the board. Ms. Mullins, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Can you tell us a little bit about what you think some of the major issues have been in this campaign?
Well, some of the major issues in the campaign have been the major project that the town is about to undertake is the rehabilitation of the school systems, and that with the facilities needing to be refurbished, and with the state offering reimbursement if you're up to a certain level, that requires a master plan, and it requires some careful financial planning to make sure that we can do this without it being too much of an impact on the taxpayers. So that's the main issue. There are some other issues that are coming up in the town as well that will require some careful thought, but that's the one that's been out on the table, I think, the most this time.
Your opponent, Bob Beatty's been quoted as saying that he thought that the architect's estimate for Phase 1 of $25 million was in excess of what the actual cost would be, and he said $3.5 million, I believe. Without getting into great detail, do you think the bond rating might be in jeopardy if we go too fast, or can we make this all happen without disrupting?
Well, no, I don't think we're in jeopardy with the bond rating at all. The bond rating, as you know, is based on the value of the property in the town and the average income, the per capita income in the town. So we're way below what would be considered close to changing the bond rating. I think that the 3.5 is the low estimate. I think he was referring to different figures at that time. I think he may be changing that. I guess I'll leave that there.
Okay. The Winning Farm is coming up for a decision. Do you favor acquiring that with Lexington, or a portion of it, for open space?
God, I hate to beg the question on this. Yes, of course I'd like it for open space. There are wetlands in the southern part of the property, so I anticipate that will stay as open space for us, but I'm not sure what's going to be happening with the rest. We have a committee put together with the Conservation Commission, the town engineer, town council, member of the Board of Selectmen, and a member of the Planning Board to take a look at this and to come back and advise the different boards as to what the options are and what would be the ramifications of the different options. So I'm not ready to have an opinion yet.
The question of whether selectmen should be paid has come up, and I thought I would ask you what your feelings are about that.
Yes, I feel that this town, one of the greatest wealths of this town is the fact that there are so many talented people who are willing to give of their time. So that is a resource that this town can tap into, and I don't think it's necessary at this time. It's a long tradition of volunteerism to give back to the town what the town has meant to us. So no, I think we can do well without it, continuing in that same tradition.
Well, it's been fun being here with you. Would you like to say thank you to anyone in particular on your campaign committee?
Oh, yes. There are lots of people I'd like to thank. Abby Hurlbut has been tremendously helpful. Paula Donahue has been wonderfully helpful. Meg Morrissey started off wonderfully well, and she is finishing up wonderfully well, but unfortunately had pneumonia. 5 children with pneumonia in the middle of this. So there are lots and lots of people who I would like to thank, but I think they all know who they are, and I'll just say thank you.
Well, good luck tonight.
And also thank you to the members of the board with whom I served. It was a very pleasant year as chairman. Thank you.
This is Frederick Lyman at Selectwoman Carol Mullins' house. Back to you, Alan.
All right, thank you very much, Fred. Very appropriate. She's quite a lady. She's done very good service there, and run a very good campaign. And I think we're going to go over to our correspondents over at Town Hall, Jerry Polcari and Sandy Rogers. And those are appropriate comments, Jerry. You want to analyze a bit about how this campaign's gone this year?
Yeah, I would like to talk a little bit about tonight. One of the things that I always concentrate on, one as a selectman and two as one who's run campaigns in the past, is I concentrate on the mechanics of campaigns, because they can, in an election like this, which doesn't have a lot of issues other than the school master plan, basically the mechanics of campaigns make a big difference. For example, and if we can just pull up a graphic that we had done before the show, I'd like to talk about 5 specific points for each candidate, for both Bob Beatty and for Carol Mullen. And the first one is fundraising. In terms of the amount of money that both candidates raised as of the 18th of March, is if you see here in the graphic, fundraising, Bob Beatty actually raised $4,400 as of that point in time, and Carol Mullen had raised $2,700. In terms of visibility, I think I would have to give the advantage to Carol. I think Bob missed a couple opportunities to appear on cable candidates forum, and he had a couple other opportunities. And generally, Carol's been able to have more people on the street at various points in time. One of the things I think, Sandy, is that there's been, I think, a complete lack of roof racks, unless you've seen some that I haven't seen.
Well, if you call a lack just one,
I think there's one.
I've seen one.
There's one. The other thing is mailings. I have to give the advantage in this case in terms of the scorecard to Bob Beatty. I think the job that Bob had done on the mailings has been fantastic. I think he targeted his mail primarily to senior voters and to presidential primary voters, and I think those were the 2 correct areas to go to. Carol, on the other hand, had more mailings to a great degree, but they were much more general in nature, and so I think I would have to give the advantage to Bob in the mailings category. In terms of pure organization, I think Carol had a bigger central group that was pushing her campaign and was able to call upon more people to make the campaign work. The big question marks here that are left are really the message for both candidates and how they're sold. And one of the things that, and along with the message, goes voter turnout, which is going to have a major impact. And in terms of Bob Beatty, I mean, there has been several articles in the newspapers, particularly in the Star, which talked about some of the comments that are going back and forth. And it was commented. I talked to several people around town, and some people said to me, "Well, the mailing he put out on his positions was intellectually disingenuous," and I heard other people tell me it was the truth. And whether you take it from either direction or not, it's almost irrelevant, because the issue is, Bob issued a very clear and very powerful message, and he should be given credit for that. He ran a classic, in my opinion, liberal challengers campaign, and liberal with a small L. I mean, basically he challenged the status quo. you know, if it's broken, he thinks it's broken, let's fix it. In terms of the message that Carol Mullen had pushed, she basically pushed a message that concentrated on three C's: communication, cooperation, and compatibility among the boards. And I think that those issues, resonates. She ran a classic conservative incumbents campaign, and I think, and she's running on the board's accomplishments. She's really running with the other 4 members of the board, which is classic incumbents campaign. And the reality here is that she's running a campaign that's feeling good about the Board of Selectmen, feeling good about the town of Winchester and the direction it's moving in. So those are the 2 things of the messages that go on at the same time. I think the last item that has to be considered here is the voter turnout. The election can be much closer in either direction, whether Bob Beatty's ahead or whether Carol Mullen's ahead, based on the fact that I think Bob had made a significant tactical advantage in terms of the way he approaches mailings, because he targeted his vote. If the voted percentage is low or takes an all-time low, he has a very, very good chance in this election. If the voter percentage creeps up at all into more the general population where Carol had targeted her mailings, I think Carol would win re-election. So I think there are a lot of issues here, and I think in terms of pure mechanics, that was my scorecard as I saw it over the past couple of weeks, sitting not only from this table, but as a citizen in the town.
Jerry?
So I guess I would say, certainly, thank you, but I have one more question for you.
Please.
On this, the scorecard, how would it affect an incumbent candidate if there is just one other person running, as opposed to, for example, last year, Jerry? Last year we had 2 people running who were incumbents, and then we had a challenger. Somehow when you have 3 people involved, it seems to me that you can generally say the incumbents are going to do pretty well. What happens though when you're just one-on-one?
One-on-one, it's one choice or the other. I mean, in a case of one-on-one, the incumbents, I think, truly have an advantage, because in any race, when you're running for re-election, the incumbents have a 10% advantage, and it's a statistical fact across any race, is that they come into the race with a certain advantage, they hold that advantage unless they squander it. In a 3-person race, because you can have different permutations, we have the infamous bullet vote, where you can only vote for one, and it's actually like getting 2 votes because of mathematics involved. It makes it a little bit different, and so how those permutations come apart is a challenger could break in on 3 people for 2 slots, where in 1-for-1 it's much tougher.
Would you think that just having one candidate running for 1 seat available for Board of Selectmen, 1 seat available for the school committee, and having a one challenge, do you think that's one of the reasons why this election seems so very quiet? I mean, I can't remember an election which was quite so quiet. You mentioned the lack of roof racks, and I'm saying if you say a lack is 1, I saw 1, but really and truly, this has been a very, very quiet.
It's been a very quiet season. I mean, last year, I think I had out there 25 roof racks, and I've seen it even higher than that.
Yes,
25 is 20 to 25 used to be about the same in the past.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's happened is, the best way I can explain to it, in a word, the whole campaign has just been very slow. And I think we can talk about a little bit later how this is compared to other seasons, and we can talk later about how it all works together and how issues work into the campaign season.
And now we're back to the studio. Allen.
Hey, well, before we let you go over there, guys, I had a question. You're talking about mailings, we're talking about roof signs, we're talking about a lot of expense here. Jerry, how does this compare to campaigns in the past? Isn't there a lot more money involved in running for public office here in town?
I think, Alan, that there is a lot more money in campaigns, much more than there used to be even 10 years ago. In terms of both Carol and Bob, they've spent significantly less than, for example, I spent. I spent last year $3,500, and I think Bill O'Leary spent closer to $5,000, and Donna D'Agostino spent closer to $5,000. And in terms of spending, they're actually down, because one of the things you didn't see this year was a lot of the roof racks and a lot of placards, so they've actually saved there. They spent most of their money on mailing. But I think the issue of campaigns, particularly for statewide office, is that we've almost taken on a mass media campaign. The door-to-door has disappeared, the coffees have disappeared. It's purely media, it's purely cable TV, it's post office, postcards. That's basically what's running the campaigns now.
Ads.
And ads. And I think, unfortunately, it's turning into mini state representative races, and they're getting very expensive. And I think that's truly unfortunate.
Jerry, thanks. Thanks to both you and Sandy. And if you're just joining us, you've seen Sandy Rogers, TV19's Sandy Rogers, and Selectman Jerry Pocari are over at the Town Hall. I'm Alan Iden, joined here by Ellen McDonald, and you are watching the TV19 Winchester Town Election Returns. And we now have another TV19 personality, Marianne Von Felt, is filing this report, and she's been over with school committee candidate Janusz Tabis. Marianne.
Thank you, Alan. We're here at the home of Janusz Tabis, and I think I finally got that right. Janusz, our candidate for school committee, and thank you very much for letting us into your home.
You're welcome.
It's been a long campaign for you, hasn't it?
Well, it has been a long campaign.
Looking back, I know you ran last year, and now this is your second run. Do you feel that the last year's run has given you more exposure to the people of Winchester?
It certainly has. At least I have the name recognition. I think it's going to help. I think this campaign has been different because there's only one opponent, and I think I was able to clearly define the issues.
And how would you say that you defined them, in a nutshell?
Well, in a nutshell, I think I got to the gist of what's wrong with the school system, which is that if you take a look at it from the long-term perspective, there are signs of stagnation, and this is clearly seen when you take a look at the SAT scores, the difference between Lexington and Winchester, and that we improved only by 7 points within the last 3 years.
Looking forward, close your eyes, imagine yourself as a school committee member shortly. What's the first thing you're going to do when you hear the positive results, if that's what we hear?
Well, I certainly would like to give our kids hope. I'd like us to have a major educational goal. I'd like to start sharing my experience in self-education that allowed me to excel, and there's no reason why our students cannot do the same thing.
I've spoken a little bit with you beforehand and also with the other candidate, and we seem to see this as a quiet election day. What are your feelings about that?
Yes, it is, definitely. It's really hard to say why. There's a perception that there are no issues, but that's definitely not true.
Did you get the feeling when you were at the polls that the turnout was very low, or that people didn't have the interest in the races that they've had in the past?
I didn't do any exit polls, so I can't tell you if they didn't have an interest. However, the turnout was very low, I think lower than last year.
Having been in this race before, can you give me some differences between last year's campaign and this year? I know there were more people in the campaign last year. Give me a little bit of an idea. What did you feel like a year ago this time?
Well, actually, I certainly remember how I did, but in a nutshell, I can tell you the difference. It's just like with a second child.
I can understand that. And for all of you with 2 children, I think you all understand, 2 or more, what that means. Very well said. Janusz Tabis, I thank you very much for allowing us into your home. I know we've kept your children, your beautiful young children, quiet long enough to do this interview, and I wish you luck today and in the future.
I don't know how you managed to do that. I certainly would like to talk to you about it. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Decision 96. I'm Marianne Von Felt for TV19. Alan, back to you.
Thanks very much, Marianne Von Felt, for TV19 with our school committee challenger, Janusz Tabis, and we want to thank him for letting us into his home and sharing a few thoughts with us as we saw with Carol Mullen.
Right, showing a sense of humor about things, and actually, during the campaign time, having a sense of humor is about as important as anything you can have.
You've done a few campaigns yourself.
It's been fun, and I've been surrounded by people with good humor, thank goodness.
Yeah, it's too bad that you're so dour yourself. Well, we left off a few minutes ago, and just reminding people that if you are just joining us, this is Decision 96, TV19's coverage of the Winchester town elections, and we will be bringing you very shortly the election results as they come into the town clerk's office. So when we'll have a little analysis of those. We left off at discussion of town meeting.
We did. In town meeting, we don't have as many contested situations for town meeting this year. We have 72 people running for 69 seats, so we don't have as many as we had in the 89, 90, 91, 92. For about a 4-year period, we had over 100 candidates averaged each year for about 69 seats. And pretty good influx of new members to town meeting. And we've averaged about 21 members a year new into town meeting, which gives us a turnover of about 70% or so every 5 or 6 years. As I said earlier in the program, we still have a very stable base of 15% to 20% who have been people elected to town-wide office in the past and serving 20 or more years in town meeting. So we do have, without a seniority system, we have kind of an institutional memory group that's part of town meeting. Certainly in no way do they control what happens, as anybody who knows town meeting will see. There's a lot of debate on the floor on any issue, and the influx of new members has had a big difference on the votes on the issues. We'll see this particular night at least 13 new members to town meeting, up to potentially 16 new members at town meeting. So we'll have, again, some turnover. Last year, we had challenges. We had in Precinct 7, which is my own precinct, we had 8 incumbents run last year, and 2 challenges actually topped the ticket. Bob Turner and Steve Campbell topped the ticket in Precinct 7 as 2 challenges against 8 incumbents. So there is a lot of opportunity for those who are watching who are interested in town meeting, who might say, gee, how would I get elected? Just come forward and offer yourself and let the neighbors know, and it's surprising how well you'll be received. So we don't have as many contested seats tonight, but we have some interesting people coming back. We have a dozen people on the town meeting ballot who've been there before and have been elected to town-wide office, and also, as I say, an opportunity for 13 brand-new town meeting members. So we'll watch that during the evening.
Contested precincts are the precincts we should watch?
The precincts, actually, we should watch a Precinct 7. That's got more than the 8. And actually, the full slates in 1, 2, and 3 will be just to fill the 8 seats. Precinct 4 has an extra candidate, Precinct 5, and Precinct 7. So those are the areas that we'll watch. 4, 5,
precincts we'll have them. Let's take a trip back over to Town Hall right now. Jerry Pocari, put those papers away. Sandy, take those glasses off. I love catching you guys by surprise. You were prepared, weren't you?
Oh, we're ready.
Oh, yes. We're beginning to get some information from downstairs, where, of course, all the tabulations are taking place in Carolyn Ward's office. So, yes, I certainly did have my glasses on because I have to see what those numbers are saying to us. And they're just beginning to come in now.
All right, so we'll...
I think what Jerry would like to talk about first is how this year's election differed from elections that we've had in the past.
Yeah, I think, Sandy, in terms of elections, one of the most interesting thing about this election, whether it's school committee or the Board of Selectmen, is that it has been pretty much devoid of issues. The only item that seems to cross over multiple boundaries is really the school renovation, the capital plan, the master plan there. Other than that, if you notice for the candidates for selectmen, they diverge in different directions. And the second they diverge, it's a very slow season. There is no common link between the candidates. You pick them for what they are. I mean, Bob Beatty's focusing on Proposition 2.5. He's focusing on the tax rate. Carol's focusing on, in terms of the cooperation between the boards. And so because of that, it's hard to compare candidates. They stand on their own, and so I think the campaign is generally devoid of issues. It's totally different than what happened back in 1989, 1990, for example. And in that type of situation, you did have Proposition 2.5 overrides, which drove the electorate, drove the issues, and everybody met those issues head on. And in this case, anytime you have an issueless campaign, the incumbents have a distinct advantage. And so I can only say that's the nature of what happens in this political business.
And soon we're going to see whether that actually does happen, because, as I said a few moments ago, the figures are beginning to come in, and we'll see now how good Jerry's analysis is. So back to you, Alan and Alan.
That's it, guys. If you don't do a good job, you're fired.
Because we can't quit.
That's right.
You can't quit.
You can't quit. You have some comments on spending, campaign spending.
Well, that was an interesting analysis that Jerry and Sandy had on the campaign spending and the targeting of votes. The interesting thing is, in a town such as we have with 12,000 voters, if you look at a ballot situation, you say to yourself, based on history, we're going to have about a 25% turnout, which is about right based on the last couple of years. and with the challenges and the number of races we have, that's 3,000 voters. And it's relatively easy, in a sense, over a 3-month period, January, February, and March, to identify, if it's a one-on-one race, the 1,500 votes that you need, 1,500 to 2,000. If you could identify 250 votes in each precinct, you're a winner. Congratulations. And you identify those votes not by spending money in newspaper ads or street signs. You identify them by going over who voted in the past, public record, and your own copies and tees and your organization. And if you organize enough that you have in your neighborhoods around town 30, 40, 50 people in a precinct that you can call your army, you can do it without spending a lot of money. And I say that to help those who might be afraid of the large number of dollars we heard in terms of spending. It's true that, not to discourage the media people who want to sell advertising, of course, but in truth, a limited number of dollars spent is necessary, but there's an awful lot that can be gained with shoe leather and the kind of campaign intelligence that needs to be done. The great visibility is more important. Let's say if there are going to be 8,000 or 9,000 people vote, that's tougher in 3 months to identify enough to win. So yes, the greater amount is spent for the visibility in those large turnouts. But in the last few years where we've had modest turnout, a better turnout than some other communities are having, but a modest turnout, those campaigns can be won without spending as much money. I only say that to
A little
advise
shoe
people.
leather and a little time, so
Interesting, yeah.
don't discourage the people out there that think you're going to raise thousands of dollars to run
Right.
in a town election.
correct.
So, but you got to work. You got to work.
Oh,
to make
it's a lot of work, and that's the part of it. The hardest workers usually see the best results, and in terms, and Jerry commented on it, those who target their vote, regardless of the weather, they're going to get their vote out, and regardless of the of the turnout, they'll have a core, and that's an important thing. That takes a lot of work, no question about it. But it can
we
be a lot of fun
got
too.
we got Fred Lyman on the line here. Was over at speaking with Bob Beatty, and let's check in with Fred right now.
We're here at the home of Bob Beatty, a candidate for selectman here in the town of Winchester. Bob, thank you for having us into your house.
Welcome.
This is your first effort to become elected to the Board of Selectmen, but I know you've been active in town affairs for many years.
That's right. 29 years now, actually. Finance Committee for 6 years. The Commission on Trust Funds for 4 years. I was chairman of the Finance Committee for the last year and chairman of the commissioners for the last 2 years of that stint. And then there was capital planning before that, the toxic waste study committee, and the first one that I was involved in was the snow and ice committee. That was early on, and then we did also the West Side Fire Station.
I remember reading that you favor the reduction of use of road salt, and I certainly applaud that. Can you tell us what you think the major issues have been in this campaign?
Well,
I
I think the overriding issue is the school repairs that have been so prominent in the town in the last 6 months, and that committee has worked very hard and attentively, and every week they have been meeting and getting the results from their architects. I think they've organized a tremendous job, and as yet the results are not in. Their recommendations have not been compiled, but I understand that long before town meeting is over, around the 1st of June, we will have a recommendation, a final recommendation from the Education Facilities and Planning Committee.
Well, it's a very complicated subject, and I know you expressed concern about it possibly jeopardizing the bond rating if it's not handled properly, and some of the cost projections, but I guess all that remains to be seen. Do you favor, I'll change the subject for a minute, do you favor any compensation for members of the Board of Selectmen?
I don't think that's necessary in this town. We have enough volunteers who are willing to do the work that I don't favor that, no.
Go ahead. Do you have anyone in particular you'd like to thank for efforts on your behalf during the campaign?
Well, after all, it'd have to be my wife, wouldn't it, huh? Standing right there, staring at me. How else could I avoid it?
Daily support.
Yes, and encouragement, yeah.
Well, I think it's been an interesting campaign with a lot of issues to be dealt with that have been addressed, and we thank you for inviting us here to talk with you.
Well, thank you for coming.
For Decision 96, this is Frederick Lyman. Back to you, Alan.
Much for that report from Bob Beatty's home. He was gracious enough to let us in there and share some thoughts with us.
That's right. Well, he's run a very hard-working campaign. Jerry Polcari described it in terms of the mailings, the targeting. He did raise some money, and we talked about that earlier, that he has spent to identify votes and to do the mailings, and that's all good campaign work. And certainly over his 3 decades of service to the community, he's certainly made his mark.
Mm-hmm. We're going to take a quick break here. Give us a break, and we're going to be back in just a few minutes with more of Decision 96.
I just got some new 45s.
Your library. It's the greatest free resource for information, but times are changing. With less than 2% of tax dollars to fund it, your library needs your help to keep up with today's technology. Please join Continental Cablevision on April 21st for the Plug-In to Literacy Telethon. Every dollar you pledge goes directly to your library.
Cool CD, Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Anna Keenan-Dixon, host of the new fashion series called Look Your Best. Each and every month, we're going to explore different fashion topics, and time to time, we'll have special guests. We do hope that you will tune in for this wonderful fashion adventure. It'll be a delight to learn how to experiment and see what's new in the fashion scene.
Hi, I'm Mary Lou Bigelow. Join me on Winchester TV 19's talk show, The Global Connection. Our focus is jobs, small business, and community. The theme is working together for a better community, region, and world. Tune in and take a walk with me on the positive side.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Decision 96, Winchester's town elections for 1996. I'm Alan Iden, and joining me here once again this year is Alan McDonald.
Thank you.
Great
to be here.
It's great to have you here. We also have our crack team over at the town hall.
We do.
We have Jerry Polcari and Sandy Rogers over there. Keep an eye on the results as they come in from our various precincts, and we'll be bringing those results to you very shortly. We also have our team of reporters out in the field. Mary Ann Von Felt and Fred Lyman are both out there tracking down our candidates for contested office and sticking a microphone in their face in a polite and very unassuming sort of way, of course, as is their style. Where did we leave off just before our break?
Well, we were talking about election strategies and styles and that kind of thing. I just wanted to make one comment, too. We talked about voter turnout, and I know today when I was at the polls talking with different voters with the lower turnout than some of our big years, we did have, back in the late 80s, early 90s, some very big turnouts in the 50% and higher category. Which was related to some 2.5 votes, was related to Prop 2.5 override votes, to some good candidate races, that kind of thing. But in terms of looking at the statewide picture, there's been a decline in the turnout in most communities. In 1994, there were 22 towns in the state that had single-digit percentage turnouts. Duxbury had 2.5% turnout. Andover had less than 10%. A number of places, a very small turnout. Weston. Even in our own area, Arlington, 15% turnout a year ago, Lexington had 12% turnout, and while we've been at 25 to 30%. This isn't to say that 25 to 30% is enough, but only to say that there has been this kind of a lack of notice town-wide sometimes to town politics. I would say in terms of how is Winchester's health, when I look at the participation in Winton Club, in scholarship, Winchester Scholarship Foundation, in the Sports Foundation, in the Spelling Bee, in so many areas, and those who went to the basketball tournament and saw the turnout from Winchester at the Fleet Center and the Centrum for our boys basketball team that did so well into the final game of Division III statewide, the girls soccer last year, all the things that we see, the turnout of the community, Town Day. It's a tremendously active community, which I think you got to put that all together in addition with the voter turnout. And truthfully, our voter turnout compared to other communities is still high. So I want to say that, as I have during the day, to people who commented on, well, gee, it's not 70% turnout. Well, you know, there are reasons.
There are reasons. Mary Ann Von Felt has tracked down Eli Bortman, the incumbent running for re-election to the school committee. Let's check in with her. Mary Ann.
Alan, we're here with Eli Bortman at his home, sitting around waiting for results to come in on election night. Eli, it's been a little bit slow today. I mean, we've been talking about it since we got here and set up the cameras. How do you feel about this particular re-election campaign?
Well, the re-election campaign has been very, very quiet. There really weren't any issues of note separating me from my opponent, and I think that is what contributed to the lack of interest in the campaign. It's been very, very quiet. I have 1/10 of the campaign force that I had 3 years ago. My opponent has a very small campaign crew working for him. It's just very, very quiet. I think that the issue in this campaign has not been my position on any issues versus my opponent's, but rather it's one of positioning the school committee for the renovation project.
So the renovation project seems to be the bottom line issue that has been discussed at all.
Oh, no, nothing's been discussed. Nothing's been discussed in this campaign. The school renovation project is the big thing that's on the horizon, though, and I think it's going to be important for us to position the school committee and to generate enough information for the taxpayers so that they will support a multi-million-dollar project.
Look back for me on your last 3 years and what you feel you've accomplished in the last 3 years as a school committee member, and look forward to me as what you hope, aside from the renovation or a focus on the renovation, for the next 3 years.
How much time have we got?
Not too much.
Not too much. The last 3 years have been terrific. I've enjoyed myself. I think our main accomplishment during my 3 years has been the sort of the rebuilding of the school department and the school budget. You'll recall that there were a number of years of severe budget cuts leading up to the time that I was elected, and we've gone to a great deal of effort to get town meeting and the finance committee and the selectmen to rebuild our budget. We were hacking away at programs before I got there, and we started rebuilding them. And I hope that we'll be able to continue that in the future. That's really been the serious problem in the last 3 years.
Is there anything else you want to add with regard to the campaign? It's before we close for the evening?
Oh, before we close? No, it's just been anticlimactic. Today has really been a very quiet day. Thank goodness it was a lovely day to be out there saying hello to people at the polls. I'm curious to see how many there were. I'll bet we're under 20%.
Are you confident?
No, absolutely not. It's confidence would lead to complacency, and my real fear was that with the lack of interest in this campaign, that my opponent would get out his whole family and crew, and I'd get out my whole family and crew, and I'd lose 12-7.
He's got a bigger family.
We just couldn't take that chance. So we really, I think we probably overkilled him.
Well, I wish you luck, and it's been a pleasure talking to you, and we will see you back at the studio after the polls close, I hope.
I'm invited to be down there at 9 o'clock. I expect with the new voting machines, the totals will be official by then, so I will see you at 9 o'clock.
Terrific. Eli Bortman, thank you. This is Mary Ann Von Felt for Decision 96 and TV 19. Back to you, Alan.
All right, Mary Ann, thank you very much for that report with Eli Bortman, and thank Mr. Bortman for inviting us again into his home. He is the candidate for re-election to the school committee.
I think, quite frankly, Alan, we should feel very grateful for the 4 candidates that offered themselves for these 2 seats. We just saw in the interview 4 very dedicated, lively citizens, different kinds of approaches to issues, as we know, and different abilities brought to the campaigns, but certainly 4 very seriously interested citizens in the town of Winchester.
And a tremendous amount of work involved. I think a lot of people who haven't sat on some of these boards can't appreciate the number of hours a week. You're a former selectman. You've sat on a few of the boards yourself. You know, what kind of hours, what kind of time did you find you had to put in?
Well, you, at a minimum, if you can't spend less than 10 hours a week just because you have to be at certain meetings in order to stay abreast of issues. So if you're doing your job really at all, of course, it's more than that. If you get to be chairing a committee or if it's a busy time on an issue, certainly 30 hours to 40 or more a week is not unusual. And of course, that has to be meshed in with your normal work and family schedule. So it is a bit of a commitment, as we know, and those who've done many, many terms, we really do have to tip the hat. Some boards are more active than others in terms of how the issues come through in cycles or the obligations to serve on it. So it's not universal that every member who gets elected townwide has to spend that.
But you're talking about some of the time involved in meetings and committees and things like that. It's not even considering the amount of time you have to spend on the phone talking to the residents, hearing out their views and discussing them.
That's true. It really is true, and it's not the same amount of hours each week. So you do get coast a little bit from time to time, but generally speaking, it is a fairly active duty that these people take on, and we have to be grateful to them because the community can't run without that kind of attention. And then all of these boards with their own expertise, whether it's health or planning or school or selectmen or any of these areas, it does take attention, and the community wouldn't be able to do as well as we do without the volunteer help. And it was mentioned in the interview period, at least with one candidate, that we have had a tremendous amount of volunteers over the years. And again, back to the turnout situation, my own estimate, out of the 12,000 plus voters that we have in this community, we have certainly more than 1 out of every 50 voters actively involved in the community. So, you know, it's not just turnout, it's activity, and we have a tremendous percentage, I would say, of interested voters who spend time in this community. Many not elected, many appointed and just volunteer, and thank God they do that.
You're right, you do, you know, we do have to make sure we realize there are appointed offices here, and it seems that every time, for say, the town moderator puts out a call for a cross-committee if you'd call it that, there always seem to be people willing, able to serve.
With real talent, with real expertise, that's terrific, yeah.
There is. Yeah. Okay, back to your notes. What have we got? You've once again have come here with copious notes and all sorts of research into
as we wait for the important results.
The important things and the trivia, election trivia.
Well, last year it took us a little longer. We hoped to do a little better on the votes, and as soon as they're in, we're going to report them. But we were in what I termed a rain delay type situation where we had a lot to talk about last year, but I enjoyed it very much. But little things that you see by reading the town reports, and we talked about the town meeting, and those who are new to the town or haven't been familiar with town meeting, we have a representative town meeting. It's 8 precincts through the town, and it's divided up evenly across the town, so we have 24 elected representatives from each precinct. That's 192 town meeting members. Now, when we started town meeting as a representative group, it was after 1928 when there was a vote by the town-wide referendum to go from a full town meeting where every voter has the same say to this representative town meeting. And the reason we did was from 1850, when the town was incorporated, to 1920 or so, we had the town meeting was held in Town Hall, or just before Town Hall was built. It was held, I'm not sure where, but someplace where all the voters could come. But after the suffrage movement in 1920, and thank goodness for that, I say, but that doubled the town vote. We had 4,500 voters in 1920, and too many to get into Town Hall. Couldn't have it. And so over the course of that decade, town meeting decided, since we could only get a quarter of the town maximum who could vote into Town Hall, we needed to go to representative town meeting. And so we did that, And since the election for representatives, that original was 6 precincts and 33, each precinct would have 33 town meeting members. The 1975 charter changed it, and we have 8 precincts and 24 per precinct. So that's how we do work it. We redistrict the precincts. We redistricted all 8 in 1987. We redistricted 4 of them in 1994. So we try to keep it up to date as much as we can.
One of the disadvantage, I would guess, of a open town meeting, and there are a lot of towns around here that still have open town meeting, would be the wide fluctuations in the attendance, depending on whether you're doing some dry items. I say dry items like the budget, but the budget can get pretty controversial certain times, or zoning issues. And
it'd be pretty tough to cram 12,000 voters in to talk about the Washington Street water pipe, no question about that, or anything else. And so, yeah, it's worked out well for us, I think, and in terms of we talked about earlier in the evening about the stability from the management point of view, and a constant influx of new town meeting members, it really has helped us out. And we used to have, we probably talked about this last year a little bit, but prior to the town meeting being representative, we had the moderator elected at each town meeting by the town meeting members. So we had quite a few different moderators, some 30 or so in the first 70 years of the town. But since the representative town meeting, we've only had 8 moderators. John Sullivan is the longest consecutive serving town moderator of them all. But we've had great stability in that leadership.
It's great. We're going to take a trip back over to Town Hall again. Did we catch him? No, we didn't. He was ready for us this. He was ready for us this time. Hey guys, over at Town Hall with Jerry Pocari and Sandy Rogers.
Yeah, we're getting better. We're getting ready for you. Any case, we do have some very interesting analysis, which these machines now seem to print out for us very quickly. And this has to do with some highlights about turnout, percentage of votes in some of the precincts that Jerry would like to share with you.
Yeah, Alan is one of the interesting things here is just looking at the turnout. Across the board, it's an 18% turnout. It's probably one of the lowest in years. I think last year we had a 24% turnout. Just like to highlight what we have here in turnout in a couple precincts. The highest percentages were in precincts 3, 4, and 7, where each of them topped over 20%. The lowest precinct was precinct 2, which came in at 12%. So there's quite a range there, quite a swing between precincts. The issue here in both 3, 4, and 7 is obviously whatever Carol or Bob come out of that precincts, because they have the highest vote percentages, it will make a big difference in the campaign and how this election is won or lost. So I think that's what we're really looking at now, and I find the percentages very fascinating. We just need the results to go with that.
Right, and the results are coming over to you as we speak. They have been sent over, and I think they're typing them in now for you.
All right, thanks very much, Sandy and Jerry. Comfortably ensconced over there in the Selectman's office of the Town Hall. And as Sandy said, we're waiting here for the results to come in. We should have the results in just a few minutes. I believe our first precinct is Precinct 5, which you said was one of the significant precincts.
I think Precinct 5 will be a swing precinct, a significant one for us to look at. In both cases, the challenger needs to do fairly well in Precinct 5. It's an opportunity for each challenger because Precinct 5 was not necessarily one of the strongest precincts for either Carol Mullen or Eli Bortman. They were strong, the incumbents, in 3, 4, and 7, as I said earlier in the evening. And to know that the highest turnout was in 3, 4, and 7, where the biggest strength is for the 2 incumbents, that would say to me that the challengers would have all the tougher job. When you're challenging and you know the other party's strengths, you hope to keep the vote down there, and where you know the weaknesses get the vote up there. And certainly the weaknesses were in number 2, precincts 1, 2, 8, and 6. So you would hope if you're the challenger for a big turnout in those precincts, and we just heard that the big turnout is in the precincts where the incumbents have the strength. So we don't know the numbers yet, but certainly that would say to me it would make the challenge all the more difficult.
18% overall, about what you would expect from it?
18% is lower than we've had in many, many years. I'll have to go back to the record book to see when it was last below 20%. We averaged 28% turnout was our average during the 1980s up until 88, when we went to 47%, and then we went to 57%, and we stayed above 30% all the way until 1994. when we came back down to 25%. But we have to go back prior to 1980, I think, to find a turnout below 20%. So it'll be interesting for us to take a look at that when we analyze these votes.
Well, we got them coming in right now. We're just trying to get them up on the board.
Oh, good, okay, well,
and like I said, I think Precinct 5 is our first precinct.
well, Precinct 5, Eli Boardman won Precinct 5 against Mark Lombardi in the school committee race 3 years ago, but it was very close in that win. And Carol Mullen won Precinct 5, but it was of the 4 precincts she won, it was the closest victory for her when she beat Ralph Johnson. And as I say, in both those races, the winners won 4 precincts and lost 4 precincts. But they won 3, 4, and 7 by a lot, won 5 by less, and then lost the others.
In case people are just joining us, let's recap what we did have in the town election tonight, and we hope you were up voting. That we had one candidate for re-election to the moderator, and you said his
20th term.
20th term as Selectman John Sullivan, as moderator, excuse me. And in the Selectmen's race, we had incumbent Carol Mullen facing challenger Robert Beatty. That is a contested race. In the Board of Assessors, we have uncontested one candidate, Mark A. Lombardi. Also in the Board of Health, one candidate, Randall Schwartz, candidate for re-election. On the Planning Board, we have 2 candidates for 2 seats, both of them candidates for re-election, Stephen R. Parkhurst and Harry Sheffalo. School Committee is a contested race. 1 seat is being sought by Eli Bortman as a candidate for re-election and Janusz Tabas as a challenger. In the Library Trustees, again, 2 candidates for 2 seats, Ellen Browning and A. Deborah Pavel, and 1 candidate for a 5-year term on the Housing Authority. Barbara Bryant is a candidate for re-election there.
While we're reading that ballot, too, it doesn't appear on this ballot, but there's one other town elected office that is not up this year, and that's the Northeast Regional Vocational School representative. Maura Looney is about to begin the 4th year of her 4-year term, and it's her first term for that. She's not on the ballot this year because that's a 4-year term, and we only have 1 representative. So Maura is in her 4th year of her first-year term. She is the successor to her father, Jack Looney, actually, who served 2 terms as a representative for Northeast.
Yeah, let's go and take a look at the results for Precinct 5. We have them in here now. Let's bring that up on the screen. There we go. Precinct 5 is, is in the southwest corner of the town, at voting at Vincent Owens School. And then we have the Selectmen's race. We have 1 seat available, Carol Mullen with 223 votes, and challenger Robert Beatty with 119 votes.
Well, my feeling was that Bob Beatty had to win perhaps both 5 and 6. Certainly he has to win 6, but let's
take a look at School Committee, and those results are in Eli Boardman, again the incumbent, with 215 votes, to Janusz Tabas, 111 votes. That is in Precinct 5.
That's in Precinct 5 as well, and that was also the same thing. I think that Janusz has even more reason to have to do well in Precinct 5 than Bob Beatty, because I think the margin that he may be behind after 3, 4, and 7 might be larger than the margin that Bob Beatty might expect to be behind, given the performance 3 years ago of Carol Mullen and Eli Boardman in those 3 precincts, which was very strong. So in 5, which was a close one for Carol Mullen last time, if you were Bob Beatty, the challenger, you would want to be a little closer, I think. And in Janusz's case, Janusz Tabas, I think the same thing is important for him, because 5 was also a swing precinct, I think.
We're going to swing back over the town hall, where Jerry has a couple of comments about the voter turnout today. Again, as we said, it was 18% overall, Jerry?
Thank you, Alan. One of the interesting things we just found out from Carolyn Ward is that this is probably the lowest percentage in the over 25 years, or even longer. We ran out of statistics after 1971. This is probably the most egregious voter turnout we've ever had. It is very low. It is significant in terms of how this town has voted. I think there's going to be a lot to be made about how low the percentage is, because I don't think we've ever hit this. Carolyn Ward was indicating that at least since her records, the modern records since 1971, nothing has ever been this low of 18%. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Alan, you have to realize that Jerry was dying to make this comment. Thank you.
That's great to know.
It was our pleasure. We didn't want to stifle him over there.
We knew we had to go back before 1980, so we knew it was a long time, but that's great.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Sandy. Okay, let's. I think we're ready with precinct 2.
Good.
Results here. So let's take a look and see what the results, contested races are in precinct 2. All right, here we go. Precinct 2. They are up in towards the northeast corner of the town. Precinct 2, voting at the Morocco School. And let's take a look at the selectmen. Selectmen's race, a low turnout in Precinct 2. We have 86 votes for Carol Mullen, the incumbent, versus 81 for Robert Beatty, the challenger.
I'll comment on that in a minute.
Okay, let's take a look at school committee race here. We have Eli Bortman, again the incumbent, with 88 versus Janusz Tavis, the challenger, with 69 votes. And boy, talk about a low turnout.
That's a record low, no question about it. Precinct 2 in the last few years has been the lowest turnout precinct. Probably will be again, it would seem. And I guess I just heard that it is again, that only 12% or so, very low. But again, for both challengers, that's not enough votes for them, because in both of those races, 3 years ago, Carol Mullen lost to Ralph Johnson 2-1 in Precinct 2, and Eli Bortman lost 2-1 to Mark Lombardi in Precinct 2 3 years ago. So if you're the challenger, you've got to say, we want a big turnout there. We're going to hope for 2-1 again. Eli Bortman actually won the precinct this time, and Carol won it, I think, too. Was that the 86, 81?
Yes.
Is that how it went?
Yes, yeah, very close. But
so we're very close, but that's a precinct where the challenger has to win, knowing the record, the previous races of the persons that they're challenging. So I would say, from the first 2 precincts we looked at, it would take some major event to turn this around in the remaining precincts.
okay, Alan, we're going to move on to, as soon as I find my sheets here. Great.
Okay.
Precinct 4.
All right. This will be
And let's take a look and see how you voted in Precinct 4. There we go. Precinct 4, right down the southeast corner of the town. And Precinct 4 votes at the Lincoln School.
All right.
All right, let's take a look at the selectmen's race. And in Precinct 4, Carol Mullen, the incumbent, with 241 votes, 2-1 over Robert Beatty with 120 votes. And moving on to school committee. A runaway, Eli Bortman with 280 votes to Janusz Tavis, 68 votes.
Yeah, the last time around in 93, both Carol Mullen and Eli Bortman won Precinct 4, almost 2-1, not quite 2-1. Carol does win it 2-1 here. Eli Bortman by a big margin, as we saw. And as I said a little earlier, that's why it was important for Janusz Tavis to do so well in those other precincts, because he's likely to be further behind after 3, 4, and 7 than Bob Beatty would be. And that's not to say that both Bob and Janusz couldn't come on and surprise in 3 and 7 as well, but on past performance, if there's any consistency to voters, you'd have to feel that that's where the strength of the incumbents is. There we go.
Right.
Were you listening to me?
Whatever you said, of course I was listening to you. I'm sitting here hanging on your every word, as well as our director, Don Cronin's every words, too.
I love it.
So,
well, I think they're very interesting figures. I mean, to me, there is a true consistency to the voters in the town as you look across the issues in the years. And this should help, again, as we talked about strategies for campaigning. It's got to help candidates in the future as they look at why do they run, what are the issues that are important, where are my voters. And not that it's an exact science, because there's a lot of footwork that's involved in it, and that changes the science. But there is a certain consistency that you need to look at as you campaign for these offices.
well, let's take a look at Precinct 1. We'll see what happened in Precinct 1. And bring up our map here. Let's take a look at Precinct 1, up in the northeast corner of the town. There we go, zooming in on Precinct 1. All right, Precinct 1 also voting at Morocco School. And there it is, Morocco School. Okay, Let's take a look at the selectmen's race. In there, Carol Mullen with 161 votes to Robert Beatty's 98 votes. And in school committee, we have, it's the same guy walking past the camera there that was there before. Eli Boardman with 162 to Janusz Tabas's 83 votes. Again, about a 2-to-1 margin there. And that guy keeps walking back and forth.
Well, that was
Professor's not a live shot.
Right, working backwards, Janusz did fairly well in one. As I said, in 95, he finished third in all but one precinct, and number 6 precinct was where he finished a close second, actually, and did fairly well there. But he did all right in precincts 1 and 8, and he would have had to win precinct 1 to have a real good shot going into the other precincts. I think 1 and 5 were the 2 swing precincts for me on Janusz. He had to win 6 and do very well in 1 and 5, probably win. And where we've seen that he didn't do that, that certainly would not look like a good opportunity for him to unseat the incumbent in this race. And it's true also of Bob Beatty. I think Bob's swing precincts to me were precincts 5 and 6, but he had to really win 1, 2, and 8 while he was doing well in 5 and 6. And not being able to win 1, I think, nor 2, means that he will have a very hard time picking up the votes in Carol's strength that we'll see in 4 and 7.
All right.
I'm predicting. I don't know. Yeah,
You're predicting.
If they turn around, then that'll make life interesting.
The great Swami here. All right, well, let's see how close you are.
Okay, let's see. Let's
move on to Precinct 3.
Okay.
Take a look and see what happened there. Precinct 3. There you go, right on your screen. Precinct 3 is right in the center of town.
Right in the middle.
Right. Precinct 3, voting at Lincoln School. There we go. All right, let's take a look at Selectmen's race. Significant lead there, Carol Mullen, 257 votes to Robert Beatty, 71 votes. And in school committee, we have Eli Boardman with 258 votes, the incumbent, to the challenger, Janusz Tabas, 57 votes.
Right. Well, that really tells the story. We're going into the evening, even when we started talking at the beginning of the program. Precinct 3 is the precinct that both the incumbents have done the best in over time, and if the challengers would have a chance, they had to keep the votes down there, not expect to be able to win in the backyard where the opponent's strength is, but to hope that there's a lower voter turnout perhaps, or that you target as many votes as you can find in those precincts that are not your base. But both incumbents did very, very well, tremendously well, and that's a tip of the hat to them and their own team and the work that they've done in holding the office, and those are areas where the challengers had to keep the difference as low as possible, and they weren't able to.
It could very well be that these are overwhelming leads.
Oh, those, yeah, I would say that there won't be enough votes left. Now we've seen enough precincts that mathematically it's like running out of time in the basketball game. If you're 10 points down with 30 seconds to play, it's pretty tough to pick it up. In this situation, it would be more than a surprise that if the votes in 7, we've seen 3 and 4, we haven't seen 7 yet, there'd have to be a dramatic, historic turnaround in Precinct 7 for the challengers to win.
All right. We'll hold off on 7 for a moment, but let's, we'll get close to it. Let's go to Precinct 6.
Oh, good, okay.
Take a look and see what the results are in Precinct 6.
Good.
There we go, Precinct 6 in your left-hand side of the screen, northwest side of town, beyond Cambridge Street, voting in Vincent Owen School there. All right, taking a look at Selectmen's race here. A bit of a surprise here. We have Carol Mullen, 138 votes, and Robert Beatty takes this precinct with 146 votes to Carol's 138. And in school committee, another close race. We have Eli Boardman with 145 to Janusz Tabas's 129 votes. Very close.
Very close there. That was Janusz Tabas's best precinct last year, Precinct 6, as I said. He did very well again. And Bob Beatty did very well also. I thought, as I said on Bob's race, that 5 and 6 were the swings, that if he could win both precincts, he'd have a very good chance. It turns out he did very well, as we just saw in Precinct 6. And Janusz did too, predictably well, but he didn't win Precinct 6.
All right, precincts. They're not ready.
Oh, number 7 is not ready? What are we missing?
We're going on to Precinct 7, but I've been warned that
All
We're
right.
almost there.
Okay,
So
good.
we do have, our last two precincts are 7 and 8. We
Well,
were
those will
bringing
be
those-
interesting. 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, in the race in '93, there were dramatic swings in the precincts. There were 2-to-1 swings. I mean, candidates would win 2-to-1 in one
Remember them,
precinct and
yeah.
lose 1-2 in another precinct. There was quite an interesting race in both races. Tonight, they haven't been the dramatic swings. The incumbents have shown more strength, based, I'm sure, on the 3 years of service and being judged on the record, and also their experience in the campaign itself. And lower turnout sometimes, and Jerry Paul Carey mentioned it, can help the incumbent, unless the challenger has a tremendously good team in identifying the vote. And I know some of that was going on as well, but we can see that the strength of the incumbents, where they are strong, was able to hold.
All right. Yeah, well, let's move on, take a look and see what has happened in Precinct 7. We're ready for that now. All right. Precinct 7, right in the center of your screen. Right in the center of town, bordering up on Woburn. The Flats. The Flats. Okay. And Precinct 7, we have Carol Mullen with 259 votes to Robert Beatty's 131 votes. And in school committee race, we have Eli Bortman with 286 votes to Janusz Tabas' 83 votes.
Well, again, Carol won that precinct 5-3 last time. Now she wins it 2-1, so that's a little better. She wins it a little stronger this time, number 7. And again, Eli Bortman just pulled away. We knew that was his strength going in. And actually, Janusz Tabas' weakest 3 precincts last year were 3, 4, and 7. So you were matching Janusz's weakest precincts against Eli's strongest. And we saw what happened. Eli just was very, very strong in his campaign, and that doesn't mean that Janusz did not run a good campaign, frankly. He was an interesting, full of ideas candidate. His enthusiasm and high motivation are really terrific in the race. But Eli Bortman has done his work. We can see that's through his service on the Finance Committee, it's through his work on the School Committee, and so many other areas, and a good campaign as well, and it shows.
Well, I don't think we've seen the last of Mr. Tabas, and we hope not.
That's right, we certainly hope not, that's right.
You're right, he's
Lots of
very
opportunities
articulate,
to volunteer.
and obviously has a lot to offer the town, whether it is on the school committee or in some other capacity in one of the
That's right.
boards or committees in the town. I'm just looking over here again. We don't have town meeting member results.
Okay.
Looking through here to see some of the familiar names and that we've seen over the years in some of these different town meeting races. But again, as you said, the town meeting, there were only 3 contested precincts?
Yeah, there were only 3 contestants. We had a lot of contests going back 2 years ago. We redistricted 4 out of the 8 precincts. We had a pretty big turnover. We actually had 36 new town meeting members come in 1994. So, as I say, we averaged 20 to 21 a year through the 90s. If you go back to 1990, that's about what we brought in, with the exception of 1994, when we brought in 36 new town meeting members. That was a time, as I say, we redistricted 4 of the precincts. It's settled down a little bit. I think it's a natural settling process, and even with the 72 candidates for 69 seats, we will see at least 13 new town meeting members from that number, up to 16. Those extra 3 could be challenges that beat incumbents.
You have a challenge there for, I would imagine, for the moderator too, in educating new town meeting members who maybe aren't quite as up on Robert's rules and their duties as a town meeting member.
We do benefit a lot by the continuity in the chair as far as that turnover goes, without question. The town meeting does run smoothly, and it's important to have that experience in the chair, I think, and that's why even over the years with other town moderators, we've seen people very experienced in the art of town government. And our moderator himself, as I said earlier, has 9 years of experience on the Board of Selectmen prior to his service as town moderator. So those 9 years, coupled with now the 20th term coming up for moderator, is certainly serving the community well, I'll tell you.
Must have started when he was, what, about
He was just
14 years old?
Yeah, he actually snuck on the ballot, I think, under 21.
You know, let's move on to precinct 8. All right,
good.
We're ready for precinct 8, our final precinct of the night, and let's take a look at those results right now. Precinct 8, right at the top of your screen, northern edge of town. There you go, Precinct 8, voting at the Lynch School there, Lynch Elementary School. And in Precinct 8, Carol Mullen with 99 votes, and Robert Beatty just edging her out with 109 votes in Precinct 8. And in the school committee race, fairly close. Eli Bortman, the incumbent, with 108 versus Yanis Tabas's 89 votes. And once again, at this point, we want to remind you that what we are giving you are unofficial vote totals. They have come from the town hall. They do not include any write-in votes, and they don't include our absentee ballots, to my knowledge. I don't think.
Well, in Precinct 8, both Carol and Eli had lost Precinct 8 in their races 3 years ago to the tune of 1-2. And here they come back and do very well, really. I think Bob Beatty expected that he had a good chance to win Precinct 8. He did. But again, the numbers aren't big enough to affect the overall town-wide vote. But he did do very well in Precinct 8, as he hoped to do. And Janusz's situation was, again, he couldn't catch up as much, and as we said earlier on, his margin of difference was going to be bigger to catch up, and he couldn't do it. And so we congratulate, I know it's unofficial, but we're going to congratulate Eli Bortman on a very good race and Carol Mullen on a very good race for their success in holding the fort.
We are, and unless you've been sitting in front of your TV set with a calculator, and we haven't been sitting behind the camera with a calculator, so we are going to bring you within moments the town-wide totals for those contested races. And again, we are dealing tonight with a number of uncontested races. John Sullivan is moderator. Mark Lombardi is for the one seat as an assessor. Randall Schwartz for the one seat on the Board of Health. The 2 seats on the planning board are going to Stephen Parkhurst and Harry Sheffalo. The 2 seats, 3-year terms on the Board of Library Trustees are going to Ellen Browning and Deborah Pavel. And the 1 5-year term with the Winchester Housing Authority, Barbara Bryant will be re-elected to that position.
As we said, for those who didn't get to spend some time with us earlier, what a shame, but
there was.
We had said on those that just so you know, and I'm sure you do for most of the voters tuning in, that Mark Lombardi is going back on the Board of Assessors for his 2nd term, having served there 90 to 93, and of course a 2-term Board of Selectmen and Chairman of the Board of Selectmen prior to that. Randy Schwartz, Dr. Schwartz is running for his 3rd term, will take his 3rd term on the Board of Health. Stephen Parkhurst will be entering his 2nd term, 1st term having been a 2-year term, and now he's going to have a full 3-year term. Harry Sheffalo for his 3rd term, on the planning board, but as we said earlier, is entering his 50th year of public service in the community, having served on some 14 boards and committees, many more than once, and probably more than the 14 that we're able to identify. But Harry Sheffalo first coming onto the Finance Committee in 1947. School committee we've talked about. Ellen Browning is going into her 4th term on the Library Board of Trustees, and Deborah Pavel her 3rd term, and Barbara Bryant her first full 5-year term. She was elected a year ago to finish the last year of David Roth's term on the Housing Authority.
Now we're going to take a quick break, and we'll rejoin you in just a couple of minutes, and we should have our town-wide totals, and then we're going to take a trip back over to Jerry Polcari and Sandy Rogers over at Town Hall. So stay with us as we continue our Decision 96 coverage here on TV 19.
Information superhighway.
Video on demand.
Cable television has been paving the way for years.
Distance learning.
Offering new avenues to enrich our lives.
Interactive services.
Choose the express lane to the future. Cable television. It's the only way to travel.
45s.
Your library. It's the greatest free resource for information, but times are changing. With less than 2% of tax dollars to fund it, your library needs your help to keep up with today's technology. Please join Continental Cablevision on April 21st for the Plug-In to Literacy Telethon. Every dollar you pledge goes directly to your library.
Cool CD, Lindsay.
You heard that. Quiet on the set. All right, we're going to bring you in townwide totals in just a moment here. We do have the results. The results are pretty obvious as to who our winners are at this point if you've been following along with our totals, but we might as well bring you up to date on the unofficial totals. Again, reiterating the fact that these totals do not reflect absentee ballots or write-in votes. And it's going to be interesting to find out if we did have a number of write-ins this time.
There will be, because I think it's easier on the new ballots to do write-ins if people would like to. I expect we'll see some for town meeting, even though there were no blank offices for town meeting. I expect we will see some write-ins where it is easier now to do that. So it'll be...
Well, why don't we take a look at the totals here, and we'll see what our total of our 8 precincts are. There we go, town-wide totals. Oh, look at that. What a great shot of the town. Here we go. Carol Mullen is the winner with 1,464 votes to challenger Robert Beatty's 875 votes in the race for 1 seat on the Board of Selectmen. And in the school committee race, moving on to that, we have 1 seat available, and Eli Bortman is the winner with 1,542 votes to the challenger Janusz Tabas with 689 votes. Eli Bortman is re-elected to the school committee. And we're going to take a trip over to Town Hall again to Jerry Pocari and Sandy Rogers. And Jerry, I believe you have, look at this. There's a bunch of smiling people there. we got winners.
We've already started the party over here.
Anyways, Alan, thank you for coming over here. One of the things we want to do, we want to congratulate both Eli Bortman and Carol Mullen for their impressive victories. And just a couple of notes here. And the totals that you just saw on the screen were the totals including all the absentee ballots.
Oh, all right.
And one of the most impressive things here for this race, particularly for both candidates, for Carol Mullen, she received 62% of the vote, and for Eli, he received 69% of the vote in an election that had one of the lowest, and I called it the most egregious turnout in modern history for Winchester.
Big word, Jerry.
I know.
Jerry, how important is the low turnout really, how important is that?
Well,
Isn't the margin of victory more important? I mean, 2 to 1 is 2 to 1.
I think
it's
that's a good question. That's a good question. I think 2 to 1 is 2 to 1 in any circumstance.
That's right.
I mean, if it was higher, the incumbents have a greater advantage with higher totals, and challengers have a greater advantage with lower totals. But I think more than anything else, it's impressive enough in and of itself.
I think it's an indication that the town is pleased with the way the town government is being run, and pleased with the job that are being done, jobs being done on the Board of Selectmen and on the school committee. So I think that's what the low turnout reflects.
Yeah. One other point that I want to add here is that, particularly in Precinct 3, both candidates did extremely well. Eli, you received 81% of the vote in Precinct 3, which had over 20%.
That's my old neighborhood precinct, back before I moved. Right. Where I used to live.
And Carol, you live in Precinct 5, but you received 76% of the vote in Precinct 3, which is also equally as impressive.
We'd like to thank Precinct 3 for turning out.
And considering that they both, Precinct 3, 4, and 7 had over 20% of their voter turnout came out in this election, and given the high numbers in those precincts and the high voter percentage you received, without a doubt, it's an impressive victory. But I have a couple questions for Carol first, in terms of what led to your victory here? What do you think were the major contributors?
I think that the town was pleased with the fact that there has been an improvement in the tone and in the communications between the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, and between the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee and the other boards in town. I think that that's the communication and the cooperation, especially as we look to some really big projects coming upon us, particularly the school rehabilitation. I think that the Board of Selectmen has done a fine job with the financial planning on the water treatment plant and on the library, and I think that they're looking for that same kind of leadership now for the school rehabilitation.
So I take it that that will be one of your major goals in this next term?
Absolutely.
Now, one of your...
Jerry, could I interrupt? The same theme holds true on the school committee side, because I think we have seen an enormous improvement in the communication between the school committee and the finance committee, the school committee and the selectmen over the last 3 years, and that has added enormously to our ability to regain some of the funding that was lost a number of years ago, and it's going to lay the foundation for the enormous renovation project that's coming in the future.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think in terms of the cooperation, I think it means a lot that the fact that all the boards are working together, and perhaps that's a reason for the low turnout. People are generally satisfied with their government right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's more important to notice that on the selectmen's side, where the machine behind the Challenger seems so well organized. I mean, enormous number of signs, mailings, and all that sort of stuff. And despite all that, Carol's victory is very, very impressive.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Bob Beatty and the way he ran his campaign.
I was impressed with the amount of effort put into it.
Yeah.
There's a difference there.
Very good. All right, Carol, in terms of what do you look towards for the future? What do you do from here?
I come back to the Board of Selectmen next week, and we get on with the business before us, so I'm looking forward to that. And
very good. Eli?
Well, I think I have a week off. The school committee has ordinarily its organizational meeting a week from tonight, and we will elect a new chairman. That will not be me. There's some jockeying going on to see who it will be, but it will not be me. And then 2 weeks from tonight, the school committee gets back to the regular agenda.
Yep.
And I guess we'll be getting ready for town meeting and starting to look towards the rehab project.
Okay. Last comments, anybody?
I'd just like to thank all of the people who supported me and came out to vote, and all of the people who came down and held the signs in the horrible weather, where I, of course, got the scold. I just am delighted that there was the support that there was for the improvement in communications that has taken place.
Very good. Eli?
Very much the same thing, although it was very difficult this time because the school committee election seemed so lacking in issues. It was difficult to generate the sort of support I had 3 years ago. But I have a small cadre of very loyal supporters, and they worked very hard to put this campaign together, and I'd like to thank them. I won't embarrass them by mentioning their names on the air, but I will get home right now. I told them I'd be down here for 5 minutes, and I'd be back, so let me out of here.
All right, we're out of here.
So,
anyways, back to you, Alan.
All right, we're over in the studio here, and Alan and I would like to add our congratulations to you, Carol, and Eli.
Thank you.
Well done. Congratulations on a well-run election.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back with more Decision 96 coverage.
With a mega-sized dome, and not have a team to play inside it. But they can be competitive because they do have a co-op where they can buy the drugs in same
gas stations. A lot of them now are also convenience stores. They sell a lot of products.
I guess I glorified that a little.
Programming that I used helped them to look at how art in the Egyptian culture helped to develop all those ideas in the areas of culture and religion and values.
We focus on current events, also CNN in the classroom that we use every single week. We focus on that, so they're getting the news into the classroom. But these students are a product of the visual medium. They understand it, so it's natural, it's logical that you're going to incorporate that into the classroom.
I think that perhaps there's a perception that in maybe one or two places
You have the opportunity to actually participate by calling in.
It intimidates some of the elderly people of the town.
So I welcome you, Dr. Richard, to our Dare to Speak Out show. used to be a smoking area at the school, which was littered with cigarettes all the time and filled with smoke.
I'm looking forward for anybody phone calls that the telephone number is 721-2050.
Do we have enough alternative activities and sites for the kids?
All right, once again, I'm Alan Iden, and we're here in the TV 19 studio with your Decision 96 coverage of the Winchester town election. We're going to take a trip right over to Town Hall right now where Sandy Rogers has Janusz Tabis, candidate for school committee. Sandy.
Yes. Hello again.
Hello, everybody.
Have Janusz here with me. Janusz has run now for 2 years for the board, school committee board. I'd like him to tell us a little bit about his campaign this year round as opposed to what he was doing last year, a little bit about how you felt about this year.
Well, it was just like having a second child. It was a little bit easier, not very much though. I wish I started earlier. Then perhaps I would have a campaign organized as well as my opponent, but I didn't have that. So in that sense, we were certainly not on an even footing.
Well, I think it takes a certain amount of time to put together an organization. You have to be in town for a while. You have to perhaps have sat on committees and things like that. And that does help. I mean, when I was running for school committee myself years ago, I had served on community school associations so that all the representatives from the various schools knew me very well and in fact worked on my campaign. So you end up building a campaign organization by sitting on some of these committees. And of course we're, in saying this, trying to encourage you to, stay with it and perhaps give it a little more effort in terms of sitting on a few committees first and then considering another run.
I don't think I'm going to run again. I think I presented myself to the voters twice. They had a chance. They turned me down. And what can I say about it? I have no regrets. I think it's good I ran, otherwise the issues of education would not have come to the fore. And I don't agree with my opponent. We do have some serious issues. I don't know how voters were happy about the fact that within the last 3 years we increased our average SAT scores by only 7 points, or that we're trailing behind Lexington by 88 points. I mean, this is an indication that we have a stagnant school system. If I didn't run, these things would certainly not come out or surfaced.
Well, I hope you'll still make some of your feelings known to us. And I certainly thank you for coming back and running again.
I would like to thank everyone who had the courage to vote for me, and a handful of supporters who participated in my campaign. And please, to everyone who has not voted, people in other countries have to die to have the right to vote. This is not a God-given right. Somebody had to fight for you to have it. And please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to lecture you. I had to fight for the right to vote in Poland, and I did. And essentially, if somebody doesn't vote, it has the net effect of other people voting for that person. So please do not abandon this right, and please exercise it as much as you can. So much can depend upon it. We have local governments, and therefore, we could actually decide about our own future, but it depends upon the quality of the candidates. Therefore, I would like to encourage as much voter participation in the future elections as it is possible. Thank you.
And thank you for coming down and speaking with us now. We're back to you, Alan and Alan.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. And again, our congratulations on a very a well-run campaign for Mr. Tabis, and we'd like to congratulate him on that. All right, joining us here in the studio with Alan McDonald is Robert Beatty from the Selectman campaign. Alan?
Thank you, Alan, very much. I'm here with Bob Beatty, who's given 29 successive years to town meeting in this community in 7 different committees in many, many different ways, and now has a town-wide run for office to add to it. Bob, I'd like to have your reflections for the community on this campaign and what you take from it.
Well, I offer my congratulations, obviously, to Carol Mullen on a very striking win over, I think it was 1464 versus my 875, which is a clear decision for the town. I did manage to get back into town meeting, and I'll be interested to participate on a continuing basis.
Well, that's certainly good news for a town meeting, and to have somebody who's been chairman of the Finance Committee, who knows the ins and outs of the budget process, with some major capital expenses to come in before us and was part of your campaign. How do you see us handling some of those things now that the campaign's behind us as we go into town meeting? Do you have some thoughts about the long-term capital situation for our community?
My concern is that we will be faced with major problems if we attempt to renovate more than one school at a time. And I understand that both the Lincoln School and the McCall School are candidates, and our emphasis is going toward those two schools, and they are to be done, I hope not, both at the same time.
Well, it will be a major area for discussion, I know. And I think part of your campaign, Bob, combined the interest of the school committee and the selectmen together. And do you see those committees having to work very closely together continuing into the future?
I think they most certainly will, in order to keep the finances in order, so that Winchester is not strapped by major budget problems and possible overrides.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to say, having watched the whole campaign, and Jerry Polcari did a piece earlier in the evening here on this show about the very well-run campaign that you had in terms of trying to target votes, to be in the mail to those people who would be likely to support your position or be influenced by your thoughts, and I think you did a marvelous job in bringing to the attention of the voters these issues, whether they voted for you or whether they voted for the incumbent. I think that you did a terrific job in bringing those issues forward, and I think you should be very happy with that.
Well, thank you, Alan. I sent out the word that we are in trouble in the future. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that I targeted didn't hear me, and that's probably why I didn't do better in the campaign.
Well, I would hope to think, too, that you'll see some results in the town meeting discussion, and that certainly your efforts are appreciated here, and they're appreciated by the whole town, because it helps us to bring these ideas forward. We wouldn't be able to do it without your offering yourself as a candidate, and it's very much appreciated, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and congratulations on a well-run campaign, and good luck to all the things we'll be doing together in the future in town meeting and other committees.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bob, thank you so much. I want to send it back to Alan to take us to the next step. Alan Iden.
All right. Thank you, Alan, and let me add up my congratulations and best of luck to Mr. Beatty there. And we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with some town meeting results, town meeting member results. So stay tuned.
Your director, here are your scripts. Let's take it from the top, please. The authors are coming to the Winchester schools. I can't wait to get my No. Okay, faster. They're coming March 28th. I'm out of them. No, stop. That was too fast. I couldn't understand a word you were saying. Slow it down. Georges McArgue. No, that was way too slow. Okay, add some beat into it. Make it faster and interesting, okay? God. You can meet them at Town Hall and get your book signed after school from 3 to 4:30. No. That was so bad. What are you doing? You can't act. I quit. Hi, I'm your new director. Scripts, good. Okay, let's take it from the top and see what you know. The authors are coming to the Winchester schools. I can't wait to get my book signed. They're coming on March 28th. All 9 of them. including Jackie French Color and Lucinda Landon. You can meet them at the town hall from 3 to 4:30. Was that okay? That was perfect. I have no idea why your other director quit. Remember, that's March 28th. You can meet them at the town hall.
All right, Alan Iden back in the studio with Alan McDonald here, and we do have some town meeting results. As we told you earlier, there are only 3 precincts with contested races for town meeting, those precincts being precincts 4, 5, and 7. So let's go on and take a look at precinct 4 results here, where we had 9 candidates for 8.
We did indeed.
For 8, and we've got our, well, why don't you go ahead, we'll do this, read off
Here
our
are the
winning.
4 electors, and you can see them on the screen. Eli Boardman, Mary Ann McCall-Taylor, John Sullivan, Leslie Sanger French, Jean Sheridan. These are winners now: Marjorie Moore, Michael Ronayne, and Nancy Clark. Paul Natalizio, who was elected in 1994, is not brought back into the town meeting, and Paul had run before and lost, and won. Then he won in '94, and now he's lost again. But he's one that we'd like to see back active, and he's got the unfortunate task of running against a very impressive slate of town meeting candidates. As you see there, the majority of the town meeting members there have held townwide office. Eli Boardman, Mary Ann McCall-Taylor, former planning board, John Sullivan, our moderator, of course, Michael Ronayne, former school committee, and those others that you see there too have been long-term active in town meetings. So
we also,
an impressive precinct.
It's been a tough year for Paul Natalizio. He was burned out of his residence on Park Street last year, so our condolences and our best wishes to him on that. Let's move on to Precinct 5. And in Precinct 5, as you can see, we have Roger Bauman, Sandy Rogers, our own Sandy Rogers, Ed O'Connell, Louise O'Donnell, Harriet Nason, Elaine Kuttner, Carol Mullen, and Linda Pickering are elected to town meeting. The candidate for selectman, candidate for school committee, Janusz Tabas, is not elected as town meeting member, and that's going to be tough for him. He's running against Carol Mullen in Precinct 5.
Yes, I think it's a difficult situation. Running town-wide, he got a lot of visibility, and I think he's a very well-known candidate now compared with a year prior, and he also has the unfortunate task of trying to run against some incumbents to town meeting who are very successful over the years. So he didn't win, but he certainly got a high visibility this year.
All right, let's move on to Precinct 7, Alan.
Okay. Precinct 7, which happens to be where I live, and you see Michael Elefante at the top, and Steve Lynch, Jay Boylan, Roger Berman being elected. That's a challenger who was not an incumbent. Bob Beatty, Bruce Hickey, also a newcomer to town meeting, Vincent Berger, and Judy Dodge. The one unsuccessful candidate here is Francis Cullen, Frank Cullen, who, as you know, probably, or many watching this broadcast know he's been a town meeting member for many years, over the years, but is not elected to this. He's not an incumbent right now, but was not successful in gaining the top 8.
All right, and it was probably worth recapping the town meeting members who have been elected in the other precincts.
That's probably true.
And we're just going to read them again. In the other precincts, there were, I believe, 8 candidates for 8 seats in each of the precincts. Precinct 1, elected is Kathleen Montgomery, Robert McIntosh, Mary Johnson, David Greenberg, John Binkley, David Storygard, Laurie Lerman, and Geraldine Heinold in Precinct 1.
In Precinct 2, the winners, 8 for 8 seats: Elizabeth Kreger, Mary Louise Janney, Mark Shepard, Roseanne Gallery, Sean Michael Facey, Edward Barker, those are all incumbents. Loretta Martinez, who's a new member, and other incumbent, Lawrence Hutchings.
And in Precinct 3, we have C. Carlson Marks, Paul Kelly, John Montgomery, Peter Kennedy Tully, James Mangan, Lorna Secris, John Shawcross, and Charles Secris.
New members there, John Shawcross and Peter Kennedy Tully.
New member. Peter Tully's a new member?
Not an incumbent.
Not an incumbent, okay.
Where were we? Precinct
We were
4,
Precinct 6.
356. Precinct 6, we have Bob Johnson, Lucille Grassi, James Richter, William McKay, Steve Powers, Manuel D'Ambrosio, Connie Maycole, and John Matarese. All 8 are incumbents in Precinct 6. Oh, I should also say we had one office to be elected for 2 years, and Richard Vallone won that from Old Lime Road.
Okay, that's in Precinct 6.
In Precinct 6, and I neglected to read in Precinct 5 when we were talking about that. There was one 2-year term available. All the others are 3-year terms, of course. But Deborah Seymour won the 2-year term in Precinct 5.
Did you miss anybody in the first few precincts?
I'm going to tell you that in 1 second.
Here.
And the answer is no.
The answer is no. Okay, then we move on to Precinct 8. And elected in Precinct 8 were Edward Brown, Charles Nuremberger, Alice Lepore, Robert DeWald, Margaret Walsh, Stephen Rodriguez, William Duran, and William Thomas.
And 2 were elected for 2 years, and that's Sam Stroud and Richard Burke. And those will be our town meeting members entering this particular year.
We're going to head back over to Town Hall in a moment, but I'd be very remiss if I didn't point out one of the stars of the program tonight, and that would be your tie.
Thank you very much.
And I don't know if we can get a good close-up look at that. That is so festive. I think it ought to be incorporated as part of our set. I don't know if we can get a close-up view of that tie, but
it'll be in the credits, I would hope, that the wardrobe by Save the Children.
There we go.
Wardrobe by Save the Children.
Look at that.
There you go.
We're gonna actually.
I see the picture.
I think we're actually going to roll our credits over it tonight. So we want to thank you for bringing that.
I am in the spirit, in the mood, and I decided to dress likewise.
I feel downright dull and plain in your.
This is the new me.
in your presence. Well, let's take a trip back over and see how our reporters over in Town Hall, Sandy Rogers and Jerry Polcari, are doing. Guys, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you, and we're still awake. And
everybody's left us now. We're all by ourselves.
And I think since we've done basically what we were here to do, that is do some analysis, give you some figures, do some interviews, I think we'd like to say goodnight. But I'd like to ask Jerry one last question, because Jerry loves to answer questions. Jerry, what do you really have to say is your final comment about this entire thing?
Well, I think more than anything else, this election really bodes well for the 2 incumbents, Carol Mullen and for Eli Bortman particularly. I think they did a fantastic job on their campaigns. I think it also speaks well of the job that they are performing in the boards that they serve on, both the school committee and the board of selectmen. I think more than anything else is that the public is generally satisfied with what's happening in town, and I think that they've basically been pushing that type of agenda in terms of cooperation and a good spirit, and I think that's good, and I think we have a lot of things in front of us that we have to do. We'll all work together on it.
Well, I think what I'd like to say is that after having a very quiet election with only one car topper that I saw, it's been a lot of fun to do the coverage tonight. We've had a very good time over here.
Car topper, you mean roof rack?
Roof rack, car topper, I call them both, either one. Same deal.
We've had a great time too, guys. I would like to remind everybody that Jerry is a sitting selectman, and that the board is not changing. It's going unchanged into the next year with the re-election of Carol Mullen. Jerry, what are some of the issues that are facing the board in the months ahead?
Well, Ellen, I think the issues we're going to be facing on the board of selectmen, we have the budget coming up, which is in about a month's time. We start town meeting again. We have the school master plan and how we're going to set up that plan and which buildings will be done first, which for phase 1, what will be the financial models, how will we handle the debt service. Those are important issues. We're going to be handling Neswick. Trash issue is going to be a severe problem coming up here. As you know, that Neswick has has set up an agreement with Wheelabrator to extend for an additional 10 years. Winchester voted against the agreement, but we still have to do a lot of analysis into the direction we're going in. And the last item, we have Winning Farm, and that's a major issue. What are we going to do with that? We have 45 acres of open space. We have to make a significant decision as to the direction we're going to take that area of town. We have a lot of incidental issues like selectmen stipends.
Yeah, that's a one.
That's an interesting topic. Jerry, tell us, how does the board split on that right now, or is there some indication of...
You're very funny, Alan. You're very funny. The board is split right now 2-2, and it remains split 2-2.
Really? 2-2?
Yeah, that's right. Peter Van Aken and Carol Mullen do not think much of stipends.